Hello again everyone, welcome back along to the channel. We are just about 24 hours away from test match number 2 between the All Blacks and the Lions. The series sits currently 1-2-0, and for this week's preview we have a special guest joining the show, as you've all requested. Okay, I do listen and I do read comments, so this one is all for you guys out there asking. We have Paul from the Driving Maul joining us once again. How are you going?
Oh, good, thank you. Yep. Nice down here, up here in Auckland.
Yeah, you can't say
nice
down
sunshine.
here. I'm about as far down as you can go. Thanks for joining me though. We've got a lot to talk about, so we're going to get straight into it. Not going too long like I always seem to do with my videos, so big list of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. First things first. First test, won by the All Blacks. Quick thought, what did you think about the match? Because most people that tune into my channel might not have seen you around. If you haven't, you can check them out. We'll have a look at those at the end, but as always, they'll be in the description. But what were your quick thoughts about that first test?
So my quick thoughts about the first test was that it was a gain line battle, and that's where the game was won and lost. The All Blacks were getting over the gain line, and that gave them quick ball. The Lions weren't getting over the gain line, and that gave them slow ball. Now, it's a rather simplistic view, but yes, I think that's where it was won and lost. The assumption by a lot of the European press, or the British press, was that the Lions pack would dominate. And that's a tad naive when you think that you've got 2 World Rugby Players of the Year in the All Blacks pack. And Reid, for me, really stood up and showed he can play the tight stuff as well as the wide stuff. I've always thought of him as being a bit of a kind of lightweight, rangy, running around, out on the wings kind of 8. But yep, all credit to him. He stood up and showed me that he could do it in the tight as well.
Yeah, it was amazing. He hardly played for weeks and weeks and weeks, and he came and had probably one of his best games in an All Blacks jumper as well. Before we take a close look at the squads, based off that first test, do you think either side or both sides should be changing their style? Just briefly, because we'll probably have a look more at this later on, but just based off how that first test went?
Based on how that first test went, the All Blacks could quite happily keep the same style, because basically you could see it coming and you've still got to stop it. There's not much you can change to stop that kind of play. It was used directly to stop the fast, or to counter the fast defensive line that we've had from the Lions up in the series until now. So yes, that's they don't have to, but I think they will do, which is the kind of do you have to or will you? So they will change it up. Maybe not initially. Maybe they don't want to do like they did against the Welsh last year, where they just didn't earn the right to go wide and were playing too loose, which meant the Wales were quite happily in the game for the first 60 minutes up in Eden Park. But so I don't see them doing that. I think they will earn that right. From a Lions point of view, looking at the selection, they have changed things up, and yes, they do need to change things up because the TO was making good yards and getting over the game line early, but early on in the game, but the All Blacks countered that, and he wasn't making the same yardage or the same breaks in the second half. So I think you will, yes, so I think they do need to change it up a bit, but they need to be a bit careful because looking at the weather, it's going to be a wet game.
Yeah, well, you perfectly segued into my next thing, which was a look at the Lions team. We'll talk about weather at the end, because that's going to be a big factor as always. But the Lions team, there's a lot to talk about in this Lions squad for the second test. We'll start off with the front row, where we always begin things. Unchanged. A lot of talk about George, whether he deserves to still be there. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think he deserves to keep that number 2 jersey and the 2 guys next to him?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Gatlin has spent a lot of time doing is playing his front rows as units. And they're not the exact same units he started the tour with, but they're not that, but they haven't changed vastly over from that either. So yes, keep the units the same. Don't mess those up, because yeah, they did okay in the scrum. Neither side dominated really. They both had their ups and downs. So no, I think he was fine. And the line-out functioned well, so which is kind of his job. So yeah,
True.
All good.
True. I think especially I think from New Zealand, a lot of people may have been surprised about was that how the All Blacks did compete more than after all the talk about how good the Lions scrum would be, how good their set piece was. I think the All Blacks competed a lot better. I think that was the area that people would be like, ooh, that is probably the area that the All Blacks could get beaten on. But I think they competed very well, and I think they took a lot out of that against the Lions than I think from my perspective that was going to happen. But what I think is the biggest area of contention in this Lions team is the second row. Now, Maro Toje's come in. No surprise with there. Laws has come into 23 as well. But they've still kept Alun Jones in, which I think he didn't have the greatest game in the first test. And I don't know if he's on the same level. Well, that's why I'm interested in your thoughts. No Cruz, no Ian Henderson. Are you surprised by the selections they've gone with in the second row?
Yes, I am. And I did a video on Wednesday saying Gatland's 3 big Lions mistakes, and one of them wasn't selection. I thought he got selection all correct up until now, or at least with there or thereabouts. This one is wrong. Cruz and Itoje should be starting, and then because Henderson played the full 80 minutes, you've got to say Laws would come off the bench. Now. It was signalled, wasn't it? Because Cruz played on the bench against the Canes, so we saw it. We should have seen it coming, really. But again, the line-out run worked well. George is his hooker at club level, and also at country as the backup one anyway. Itoje is his partner at club level. These guys all play together all the time. Why would you break up that unit? It just does not make sense. Yes, in the first test, he did drop the ball a couple of times. He got himself isolated with some of his runs. He didn't have a great ball carrying test, but apart from that, he didn't have a bad test just out away from there. So he just needed to tidy that bit up. I'm surprised, but not really, because Alun Jones and Warburton and North generally are picked by Gatland every single time they're available. Halfpenny slightly less so, but those. So yeah, it's Gatland, and he's going to live and die by his people, his men.
His Welsh connection, which perfectly, once again, you're on fire at the moment, segues into my back row topic of discussion here. Omani dropped out of the 23 completely. A little bit harsh, do you think? That's the first point. But Warburton in, and like you talked about with the Alun Jones and the Welsh connection, do you think that main part of that selection was to give the connection with Faletau, who probably had his worst game on tour, I think, in that first test, and gives him that connection with Warburton, and again, Alun Jones, those 3, do you think they kind of picked because of each other in that back row and that second row as well?
No, I think they're picked because, I think he's been picked because of the gain line problem. That the All Blacks got over the gain line far too easily. I think it's like 55% of the time they got over the gain line, whereas the Lions were down in the low 30s in the first half, and they crept up into the 40s in the second half. But so I think this is a game line thing. This is we just need big bodies, and Omani is a mongrel. He is someone who annoys you all around the pitch, but he is not just a big block of meat. Which is what you're going to get with CJ Stander coming off the bench, and Warburton is bigger than him and also better over the ball. So this is about slowing down the ball and trying to win that game line battle.
So that's the forward pack. So a lot of big talking points in that forward pack for the Lions. The backs, I think there's another big point in the backs as well. We'll start off with the scrum halves. Conor Murray. Now we know how good, amazing he is. And the tactics that evolve around him or revolve around him with his box kicking and things like that. But do you think that he was outplayed in the first test when Rhys Webb come off the bench?
But it's horses for courses.
Different game plan, yeah. But
when everyone's fit and everyone's fresh, there aren't that many gaps. So let's do the box kicking. Bring Webb on to do his breaks and his sniping when there are a few more tired legs and there'll be a few more gaps. So no, totally think it's the right way around.
Do you think Murray had a bad game in their first test?
No, not overly bad. It's a bit difficult. I mean, I was at the ground rather than watching on TV, so it's a bit difficult to see some of the intricacies of what's going on. But no, I don't think he had a bad game per se. As I say, it was more the lumps, not winning that game line battle.
Yeah, he didn't have that much influence in the game as you're probably used to him seeing. I think that's more what it was rather than having a bad game. He wasn't as influential. He didn't have the impact that he normally does, which makes you think, was he having a bad game? But I just think it was the way that the game was played that didn't suit him too much. Further on the backs, this is, I think, the biggest contentious part of this Lions team. Sexton at 10, Farrell at 12, no Teo in the 15. He's on the bench, of course. We talked about it just before. Complete change of plan. I think Teo was probably, and he has been all tour as well, one of their best attacking weapons. What's your thoughts on this? I think this is a bit of a second mistake in selections, personally.
Yeah, I'm not a great fan of this one either. But I mean, Tio was making ground in the first test. I think I mentioned, sorry, haven't I? To please myself. But yeah, he found some gaps. He got over the gain line, and then the All Blacks adjusted, and he wasn't anywhere near as effective. So I think that's why we're seeing him come off, is that the All Blacks adjusted their game plan to nullify him. With that Sexton and Farrell combination, you've got to think that after we've had a few box kicks, we're going to see the ball go wide. And whilst Jonathan Davis is not the best passer in the world, so what you do is you put Farrell in at 12 with his missed pass, and then you bring the wingers into the game. So that's what I think is going on here, because let's be honest, it was the back three that were dangerous in that first test, the opposite way to what we thought. We thought would be the All Blacks back three, but those back three, when they, if they, well, it's not when, it's if they back themselves, can cause some real damage. And so I think that's what Gats is saying is, right, just give the ball to them, guys, don't kick it so much, just try run with it for a change. We lost the kicking battle. The All Blacks, for all their possession advantage, kicked the ball 33 times. They kicked it more than the Lions.
Yeah.
They kicked the ball away and had more possession. You know, guys, this kicking duel is not where we're going to win the game. So, so Liam Williams, stop kicking the ball, run it, basically. And we're seeing that on the bench as well, because Jack Nell's come onto the bench rather than Halfpenny, who's a much more attacking, energetic player than Halfpenny. He will not be kicking sticks, for example. That's not what he's there for. So that's what I think is going on here. And I've probably jabbered a bit too long.
No, it's fine, because you perfectly you pretty much touched on what our next point was. The back three unchanged. Biggest shining light from that first test. You've already touched on it, but anything more to add on it? That they were pretty much the biggest thing that the Lions took out of that first test?
They were, and they scored that try, and then we hear them coming out midweek going, oh yes, we back our attack, we back our counter-attack. Well, why do you only do it when the kicks close down then? I mean, the only reason Liam Williams attacked then for that wonderful try was because Kieran Reid was going to block the kick. Otherwise, he would have kicked that, and we would have been back into a kicking duel that would have not suited the Lions. So, yeah, that's to me, I think that's got to be the message to those back three is trust your instincts. Well, actually, no, don't trust your instincts, because your instincts is to kick. Trust your running ability and have a go. Really have a go, because otherwise we're going to lose this game.
Yeah, I also saw comments, I think it was from Elliot Daly throughout the week, saying how they love to run, how they love to attack, and how they love to play open game, but we never see it from them.
That's it. Those exactly the comments I was thinking of. Yeah. We back our attack.
Yeah.
No, you don't. Yes. Go on, back it. Really do. Really back it. Go for it.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to see, and that's what hopefully we're going to see. The problem is the weather.
Yeah, that's going to be a shame. That's going to be a big shame if it's not an open sort of weather conditions. Finally on the Lions team, just noticed in the last couple of days that North and Henshaw are heading their way home injured. Won't obviously affect the team this week, but do you think over the full series they are players that could have had impact? You know, possibly, even if it did go to 2-0, would you think Gatland would shuffle things around a bit, possibly?
I don't know. For me, I was on Talk Sport earlier, and they asked me the exact same question. Would these guys have had an impact? No. It's not players. Pectoral muscle. Someone told me it's going to take about 6 months to get over, maybe longer. So that's it's a real shame for the players. They're going to be out for quite a while, possibly with those injuries. But from a Lions tour perspective, they weren't going to play. So it's not actually a loss for the Lions overall. And they would only play in that third test if there were more injuries between now and then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like they've got a chance to stake their claim over the next week, apart from in training. So unless there's injuries to Tio or to a couple of outside backs, then no, it's no loss to the Lions.
I'm going to take that fully as a compliment that I have the same questions as radio shows. So, you know, I know radio shows probably aren't listening, but that's all right. That's Lions team. A lot of changes. A whole complete different outlook to the side, I think. It's gonna be interesting to see how the second test plays out. But of course, the other side playing are of course the All Blacks, and I don't think.
Let's just go back a second.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a total different outlook with that Sexton Farrell combination. But by bringing Warburton in, by bringing CJ Stander in, you're bringing more running into the pack. So you might just see plenty of they might play it very tight with those players rather than maybe it's a bit of a semi hoax with the wide play, and maybe we've got 2 kickers in there instead, and they're just going to boot the leather off the ball and play 10-man rugby.
You're right.
Who knows?
The style of play was after the All Blacks squad. You're going ahead of my structure here. Come on. We're going radio structure. All Blacks team. We'll talk about style of play in a second. Unchanged forward pack. Do you think this unchanged pack for the All Blacks outpacked the Lions in the first test?
Yes, they did, because they won that gain line battle. They got parity in the scrum. Their line out didn't kind of function. So that's the only bit that they didn't boss the game, and that didn't influence the outcome. So yes, they definitely got the upper hand, and yeah, let's suppose when we were picking our All Blacks team, we would have got it 90% right for the first test, and this is not Hansen's way to change things. Yes, he'll mix things up for games that he knows he's going to win anyway, to give people experience and to build depth. You don't use Lions tests for building depth. No. You use it for winning games. So these are important games that he wants to win. So no, I'm not surprised that we have no changes.
And that perfectly flows on to what that produces when we look at the centre pairing with Ryan Crotty out. Anton Leonard-Brown, he is a product of what you just talked about, giving guys chances to build experience and come into the team. Do you think they're going to really lose anything? Because I think Anton Leonard-Brown maybe a bit more of an attacking sort of player than Crotty, but they're quite similar in the way that they just do what they need to do properly. Do you think the All Blacks are losing anything here with Crotty out for Anton Leonard-Brown?
If they are, they're not losing very much. No. And what they lose, they gain elsewhere. So yes, Crotty is Mr. Dependable. He doesn't make mistakes. Full stop. Anton Leonard-Brown is magic hands and dancing. So we're going to see a little bit more ability to open sides up with passing. But yeah, he's maybe not as dependable as Crotty. That's not to say he's shaky and a problem. No. We're just saying Mr. Ultimate Dependable isn't there, so the next person isn't going to be quite so dependable. He's still very good.
And while we're looking at centres, and we talked about it briefly just before, no Teo, Sonny Bill Williams, a lot of talk over the week about the battle between the two of them. Teo's, he did keep Sonny Bill quiet for most of that match as well. Do you think this, with the change, Sonny Bill running it on Farrell, there's a chance where the All Blacks could find a channel where Sonny Bill Williams could become a pretty big factor in the opening 40 minutes, especially of this match?
I'm not so worried about him running down at Farrell. I am really concerned about him running at Sexton.
Well, that channel between the two, yeah.
So, yeah, I think Farrell will be fine. Is he going to put Sonny Bill Williams on his back and smash him behind the game line? No, probably not. But he'll get Sonny Bill down. Farrell's defence is very strong. Sexton has a tendency to get injured as well. I've seen at least one tweet having a chat with Mood saying if Sexton lasts 30 minutes, he'll be surprised. I'm actually surprised that Sexton made it to the Test series. I thought he was going to go out during one of the warm-up games, to be honest. Having Retallick, Whitelock, Sonny Bill Williams all running down that channel at Sexton is a bit of a scary prospect, and yeah, he's going to get squashed.
Not much faith in the bone structure of poor old Johnny Sexton. The back three. This is probably the biggest area of discussion for the All Blacks. Naholo's coming in for Ben Smith, Dagged fullback. Still no Salvia, which is an interesting tactic. Do you think this changes the Lions' thought process of maybe that high ball tactic that they could play a bit more? But also, my thoughts on this are that attacking channels out wide, the Lions struggled to deal with the pace daily, especially of Ioane and that. Do you think this is going to be even more of a problem here for the Lions out wide if it's not pouring with rain, if we do get a bit of dry, if it's not completely soggy underground, but if we do get a bit of a pace race, wingers, you got Ioane and you got Naholo, very quick. Daly could find a struggle? Do you think that could be a possibility? Why is Sevilla so out of thoughts, do you think? Yeah.
I think Sevilla's, I think he's over. I think that Rico has come in, and it's the next generation. I think a bit like Rocococo when was scoring lots of tries and doing very well, and then suddenly he disappeared and was replaced by the next generation of wingers. I thought Rococo could go on and get a lot more caps. I mean, he's still playing in France. It's not like he's retired or anything. So I think, yeah, that I think Julian Sevilla may find that his All Black career is coming to a sort of premature end, and that the next generation are going to come in. So that's my thoughts. Naholo's going to get kicked at. Let's be honest. He is not dag under the ball, so he's going to get kicked at. But if he is given any space, he is just going to destroy the players in front of him. Let's be honest. He is he's a very powerful runner. And that's going to be Daly's and Watson's downfall. They're not big guys, relatively speaking. I mean, they're all probably about 3 times the size as me, but they're not big in rugby terms. And so, yeah, they could have some problems. They just need to make sure they get him and ball, because, yeah, so he's not the best under that high ball.
lanepalp, chance of a debut for him, you reckon?
Absolutely, as long as the Lions are winning. Sorry, as long as the All Blacks are winning. They. Yeah, of course, there's a fair chance. I mean, one of those players is, as we saw in the first test, there's a good chance of injuries as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets on the pitch. Now,
finally, with this little battle between the two squads, the strength of the bench, it's always something the All Blacks consider to be a strength of their game. Do you think this Lions bench, with all the tweaking going on, can match this All Blacks bench this time?
It's different, isn't it? Because there's no fly half to come on, so you're looking at Sexton or Farrell shuffling in, and then Teo coming into the inside centre role. And Jack Nowell is a very different style of player to a lot of the other players. So, and if he gets his game going, he's electric. He's one of the best wingers in the North Hemisphere. He's not quick, but he's very elusive. It's very rare the first guy gets him. He always finds a soft shoulder. He always finds a gap, and you'll see him popping up all over the place. He's a very high work rate. We're talking about guys here who are all, or just about all of them, are first choice international players for their country. So yeah, it's a strong bench. It's hard to pick a weak Lions bench. It should be. So from a bench point of view, they should be able to compete.
So that's the squads looked at. Quick and easy, done and dusted. The style of play, you mentioned it a bit before. Will we see the All Blacks go a bit more expansive style? I know weather dependent, but Naholo on the wing, do you think going to try to shuffle a bit more balls out to those wingers out there? Will both the teams box kick as much as we saw in the first test? Again, weather dependent, but we know that's a game plan for the Lions. And will the Lions actually give that back three a bit more trust with the ball? Will they actually allow them to play more freely? Do you think this is actually going to happen? It's easy to talk about it and say, yeah, we want to run, but really, they've got to have faith in yourselves and go for it, boys. Now let's just bust this All Black myth, okay? The All Blacks do not spin the ball wide. The All Blacks kick the ball an awful lot, create broken field play, and then go. They do not, and they have some set piece moves, don't get me wrong, once they're in the 22, because there's nowhere to kick the ball to, you've run out of space. But the All Blacks game is built around turnovers and broken play. It's not built around spinning the ball wide and tricky, fancy loop around moves and all that kind of stuff. So are they going to spin it wide to Naholo? No. What they're going to do is they're going to kick the ball, wait for you to kick it back, and not have a great kick chase, and then spin it to him and let him find a gap and go. That's what's going to happen. There's going to be lots of, yes, there will be lots of kicking. The All Blacks kicked it 33 times last week. If they kick it less than 30 times, I will be surprised. They love to kick the ball, but they love to kick the ball well. It's contestable, it's intelligent, it hits the grass. It's not poor kicking on the whole. Yes, they will get the ball to Naholo, but no, they're not going to spin it to him. So finally, before we go on to the biggest part of it at all, what's your key area of this game? Where do you think this game predominantly, your number one area where both sides could win it if they play this area to their best, is going to decide this game ultimately? The breakdown sort of thing, the battle of the nines, what do you think? Where's it going to boil down to?
Should we go cliche? forwards win games. Match decide by how many. That's the Lions forwards have got to stop the All Blacks forwards, and they've got to win that gain line battle.
Do you think that back row, especially the change of the back row, that's going to be one of the most important areas of that pack?
Yep, you've got to stop that gain line. Stop getting over the gain line. You've got to slow down the ball. It's easy to say. It's extremely hard to do. But that's why you've got a Toji. That's why you've got Warburton in there. They're both there to make big hits and then get the hand down just to block other people's hands getting towards that ball, whether they get the ball or not, just slow the thing down. So that's what it's been picked for, and if they don't slow the ball down, the All Blacks will win. It's as simple as that. They have to slow it down, otherwise the All Blacks will cut them to pieces. And from their point of view, obviously quick ball helps, front football helps, but let those guys have a run and trust their instincts. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to get enough points.
So things that they can't control, we'll talk about finally, ref and weather. Now, I'm pretty sure we've got that dodgy French guy, don't we? Yeah, I knew it was. I knew it was a dodgy French guy. And of course, it'll be raining. What gets me about the refs in this series, so it's not, I know it's referees, but it's really so strange here. We've gone from the Super Rugby, even with Super Rugby refs, dishing out cards, playing with this style that, like even that Tio tackle on Sonny Bill Williams, and sure, things the All Blacks did just as much as the Lions. Well, we've seen so many yellow cards in the Super Rugby game. Why are the rules so different is what I don't understand. We're not going to talk about that today, though, obviously. But do you think the ref and the weather are going to have a big impact on this game?
Yes, they will do. I mean, we've got French refs for the last two tests, so it's going to be European style, and so rather than the Super Rugby style that they used to. So there'll be it's how quickly can the All Blacks adapt to the calls being done in a different way. And adapt. Generally, I mean, let's be honest, they're one of the most intelligent teams in the world, so they do adapt very well. So but yeah, you could see in that first 10 minutes while they're still figuring it out, there could be an advantage for the Lions there. And yes, the weather will. Balls now are very sticky, so it's not so much the handling should be okay. It's going to be more as to how the pitch holds up. The All Black teams have spent a lot of money. The New Zealand Rugby has spent a lot of money getting good drainage, so the pitch should hold up. But being wet, it could come down to one player just slipping.
It could. And finally, last thing: 2-0, 1-1. What's it going to be?
2-0. I'm backing the All Blacks by 10.
Oh, I'm surprised. I really thought you would have come out with the Lions. I really thought you would have backed the Lions on that one. Well, that was nice and simple. All Blacks by 10. I'm going All Blacks by 16. And it's going to be less than last time. And according to your analogies, that's going to be putting my house on it. So, Mr. Bankman, I'm sorry, but the All Blacks better win. But that is it. That is us done and dusted for this preview of the second test between the All Blacks and the Lions. A lot of talking points throughout this little preview, so let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. As per always, let me know what you think. You can catch me on Twitter as well, at Cornflake Crib. How can we get a hold of the Driving Maul if we want to check out all your amazing content that you've been producing over the tour?
So, I am at Driving Maul on Twitter. And now you'll see me there every day on Periscope, just about, and the Periscope recordings are put on to YouTube here. So YouTube/C/Driving Maul, and you can see all my videos.
Awesome. Thank you for joining me once again, and I'll catch you all next time. Until then, take care.